Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on this live stream. My name is Hassam Hassan, and I lead the reactor in the Middle East and Africa. And today we are excited to continue this learning journey with another session of this series. I'm happy to invite Catherine, who's going to tell us more about today's session and the series in general. Catherine, thank you for joining us on this live stream.
Thank you, Hussam. Welcome everyone who's joining us. So we are here for our 5th session of the Game of Learners Power Platform Clinics. So the Game of Learners Power Platform Clinics is a 5-week upskill initiative where we want to upskill people who have no coding backgrounds to be able to build and deploy technological solutions using low code or no code. So we have had a couple of sessions before. So for you to be able to follow up on what we've been doing, there's a link that you will get all the resources and all the sessions before. It's aka.ms/GOL Power Platform. We also have a self-paced learning cloud skills challenge, which you'll also get at the link aka.ms/GOL Power Platform Challenge. We also want you to share your story online using the Power Platform Clinics hashtag. So once you go and learn something, engage us and share with the hashtag that is Power Platform Clinics. So we have our speaker today who's going to take us through our session, data analysis using Power BI. So over to you, Marcus. Maybe you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you very much, Catherine. I'm very happy to be able to join here and very happily excited to talk about my favorite tool, which is Power BI. I will do the introduction slide like at the very end during the Q&A because I think nobody wants to hear me talking about myself, but hopefully everybody wants to hear me talking about Power BI. So what's the agenda for today? So there's a huge career opportunity, of course. So we will talk about a little bit about that. And then the second 2 points, how to get started with Power BI and how easy it is for non-traditional developers to make great things in Power BI. This is what all the demo is then about. So there will be a lot of demos. If there's any questions, please do not hesitate to ask them on the comment section. We will take some time at the end, and then I will try to do my best to answer most all of them. But yeah, let's continue here in the slides. So the career opportunities. There's a lot of career opportunities in Power BI. Like look at myself. I'm a consultant for many years, and since 2018 I got self-employed. And the reason I'm self-employed is Power BI. There were so many requests. People asked me to train them, to help them with Power BI, to build reports and architectures for them. So, and Power BI made my career, so I think there's also a career for you. And it's easy because everybody works with data, right? There's no organization, no company who does not have any data. And the amount of this data is constantly growing. And the thing is that data itself is not very useful. I mean, look at lists of, I don't know, yeah. In like 30 years ago, it was like printed out lists. Now you can like generate lists in Excel or whatever and look at them, but this has no information for you, right? We have to transform the data into information which we can then gain insights from, which we can then use to derive actions. So that's the whole idea in this BI, business intelligence field. And Power BI is really excellent in helping here. We'll see, of course, I mean, I have only so much time, so I will do my best to point out all or many different aspects. Of course, there's no chance that I can show you everything because the tool is now over 7 years old. There's every single month, there's a new version of the tool. So just today, or was it yesterday? I think today or yesterday, the February version came out. Yeah, so this is constantly interesting and improving. But let's see the product, right? We should not talk about the product. I want to show you the product itself. So the demo scenario is I took a demo database. So this is data from a company, an artificial company. So this is not non-existing, called AdventureWorks, which is a sports article retailer. And your task, my task, is to analyze the reseller sales. So we have the reseller sales covered or collected over the different product categories and promotions and regions. And of course, there's also a timestamp there. And let's see, let's jump into the demo and see what we can get Power BI to tell us about this. So I jump over to my demo machine, which is actually here. So what you now should see is Power BI Desktop. So I already opened the file, AdventureWorks DW, so I already loaded some data there. That's why we have this field list in here. I will talk later about how we can get data into Power BI or connect Power BI to the data. There is a lot of opportunities how you can like visualize the data, but the most easiest I would say, and the one especially if I know my database, if I know what kind of data model I'm having here, is to just remove everything here so it's not distracting anymore, and I can just double click on the pane. If I double click, then Power BI will come up with this bubble and tell me I can ask a question about the data. So if I'm used to the terms in my data, I can just ask for sales amount. I know that there's a sales amount information in this data, and Power Query tries to discover what I mean. And when it thinks I understand what I mean, then I get this blue line underneath, right? And we have to click OK. We can see that there's like 80 million of sales amount in our data. This is nice, but I mean, this is over everything, right? All the years, all the categories. So I can start typing here and continue here by category, for example. Category. Never type in the demo, right? And then it will remove the number and show me a bar chart instead. So this is something useful, I guess. So we can like move it up there, make it a little bit bigger, use quarter of the screen here. And then I can continue. So can I also ask for, I also want to analyze the sales amount by there's promotions. So we sell not everything to the full price, but we have discount actions. And I can even ask for, I'm only interested for the data for 2003, 13, sorry. So the data is unfortunately really, really old. Not as old as I am, but still 10 years old now. So we can also put filters in there. So if you can type, and I consider myself not only a fast speaker, but also a fast typer. So I really enjoy this tool because I can add filters also in here. And if I again transform this to a standard visual, we can even see that in the filter section, now it added a filter for me where it's asking only for the year 2013. Similar, we can continue here, asking the sales amount there's a region, I think it's called group, right? There's the sales territory group. And depending on how you create this data model, so what I did here, I told, when I created the data model, I told Power BI, this territory region, this contains a regional information. So you can put this on a map. As we can see here, so there's different things in North America, Europe, there's something not available. So for some reason, it's put it to Nairobi, I think. And all the Pacific things, which we do like in the regions of Australia or Indonesia, is unfortunately put into the Pacific Ocean. So that's why I'm not a huge fan of at least simple maps like this. So it's putting like information there. It also uses like Bing map. So there's like at least this data points, the positions of the data points has to transform to Bing. So it then gets back where to draw it. And the other thing is, I mean, the most people I work with, they know where North America is on a world map, right? Or where Europe or, not the really Pacific would be something different. So what I also can do here is I can ask for, please, as a table or as a bar chart, for example. So I can even like talk, and there's a list of, I think, 100 commands you can use in this Q&A visual to talk to Q&A, and Q&A will then try to do best to get the data right. So last but not least is like the sales amount by date. So I get like a line chart. So this tool is really, really, really smart, because if this is over time, it makes sense, of course, to put it on a line chart because this is continuous data. And this is what it does. So I can also ask for like something like as a map or whatever. Would not make sense, but this is what it does by default. And if I click here, the tool automatically, everything is interactive. So if I move my mouse cursor here, I can see like from the whole sales amount, the category is bags, and this bar is representing 65 million. If I move the mouse cursor there, it tells me this bar is about North Americans representing 61 million. if I click on the bar, you can see that there's movements in there, right? Things are moving, and it's now automatically filtering. So it only shows me now the bikes for 51 million because this is the bike sales I did in North America. So even without like building sophisticated things in Power BI, the tool helps me really to dig into the data and yeah, apply filters and do things like that. If we are talking more about like this line chart, of course, just want to show you, I could also have built it another way. So I can also click on the line chart, for example, just to show you this is also possible. If you do not want to type, I move in the data, and also have to, always have to think about, so the data is the x-axis, right? And then the sales amount would be on the y-axis. So can I come down here? Yes, the screen resolution is a little bit awkward for me, and I get the same size. There's a lot of features. One of them is this analytics part, and especially for the line chart, we have a lot of different things we can do. For example, if I look at these numbers, obviously they are very volatile. So they're going up, going down, going up again. So this is like, looks like a share or something like that, but it's a sales amount for this fixtures company. But overall, I have the impression that like there's an upwards movement, even if it's like going up and down. I think this is overall there's a positive trend over years. We can prove this, but just click on here, and it will automatically add a trend line for me, which is calculated as a simple regression line. Unfortunately, we cannot change the behavior. So there's only like, I can change the color or things, but I cannot change the parameters, how this is calculated. But for an easy first impression, this could be the thing which is helpful. Similar for the forecast. So I can turn on the forecast, and then I have some parameters which I can set. So I can ask for, do the forecast for example, only 6 points. Don't think it makes sense. Like this is monthly data. Don't think it makes sense to do a forecast for 10th month. 6 months is already risky enough, right? We do not ignore anything from the past, and maybe I want to make sure to say, this is monthly data, so I want to have the seasonality on 12 points, 12th month, so to speak. And depending on what I'm choosing here, I get this band. So the higher the confidence interval is, the broader, the wider this band will be. So if I stick with 95%, I get this shape like, and of course, yeah, the true number could be somewhere between 3.2 million and 6.9 million, the upper bound and the lower bound. And this is because data is so volatile. But maybe this makes sense, so I can keep this. Also, if we look at how it comes up with, I'm not sure if you're into time series analytics, if you ever did any courses, classes on forecasts, but the forecast is not so much magic. Like all of the machine learning algorithms, still just look on the back, on the data we're having, and let's try to find patterns. And as we can see here, like my first name is Marcus, right? So I easily spot M-shaped patterns anywhere. So I see this M here, and this M is also here, and I can also see it here. And if you think it like the M starts somewhere in, what is this? This is in November, right? So if I move in here, we can see this starts in November in 2013. If I move my mouse cursor here, this one or here, it starts also in November, but 2011, and the other one started in November 2011, 12. It was 12 here, right? So obviously it found like a shape or something similar over the time, and this is what it's repeating. It also, obviously, this M shape is on an upper level, on a higher level than this one. So this is what also prolonged here over the trend here. So this is the basic here. Of course, there's plenty of algorithms. Let's see how much time we have so we can point out more things here. I will look at if there anything comments for me. There's a lot of comments there, so please unmute yourself, somebody in the studio, if this is something for me. So what we can also do here with these trends is we can also run. I mean, this is no code, low code, right? This is simply no code. There's no code involved. I just click on things, activate features, or turn them off again. If you want to really go more serious into machine learning, so maybe R or R or Python would be something for you. So what we can do here in an R script visual, I can run an R script inside Power BI. So this visual is not just one of the standard line charts or whatever, but this runs an R script. If I click on the visual, it's getting minimized. And I can see here there is code running. So obviously somebody typed in some code in here. So if you already have code in R and Python, you can just reuse it here. So I use this ggplot library to draw the things. The scales help me to get these numbers, not in the scientific notation, but in the notation all the business users are used to. Then I prepare something, so I convert the date column into a POSIX format. This is a Unix format, which helps ggplot better to know this is about the date. And then I create the plot. So what I do here is I get the date, and the date comes from my data model. So this is the date I just added, or not just, but previously added here. And the other one is the sales amount. This is this. Because there's a blank in it, I have to put it under this get function. And then I'm asked for, please take the third color of the theme we're currently having here in ggplot, point it as a line and as a point, draw as a line and a point. Then make sure that everything is better readable, so I increase the size to 18. I want to have this the axis between 0 and 5 million. So if some filters changes, the scale of this one does not change. The labels should be in this comma notation. This is not a scientific notation, but a comma notation. I don't need any legend. And then I put date and sales amount. This is the text you can barely read here, I guess, but this is the text I put here. And then I use, for example, the less method, but I could also use the linear model just to point out that you can actually can change this. I can rerun this. I can make it smaller again, and it's still running. And then I get this normal linear regression, this linear model here. So of course, this is only for people who want to code or only already know how to code things in R or in Python. Python, you can do the very same thing. So jump over here. Then it's very similar. The look and feel is a little bit different because the library I used in Python is, of course, is different one than I have in Python in R. If I click here again, then we should be able to see this code while it's drawing. We can see here this code again running. So I use different under packages. It's called. It's not libraries. Python is called packages. This is this matplotlib and pandas and sklearn. Then I prepare again the data, convert it to something which is more useful in Python. Then I build a model, which I call AM, which is a linear regression, and I then fit the model. So I pass in my existing data and please return me whatever the linear regression model is. Then I do the prediction and I draw a plot. So very important that at the end, I always have to show this PLT show to actually show something. So if you forget about this, you get an error message in Power BI telling you, this visual didn't return anything useful for me. So this is about R and Python. Running this script here is cool if you already have them. And it's also very flexible, but you've seen like this is running every time. So if I jump back again, the script has to render again if the data changes. Or my filters changes. So there's another way of putting in R and Python. I can have something running when I load the data. So let's open this Power Query editor. Power Query, as you can see, is just another window inside of the same thing. So this is part of Power BI, but it's a tool doing all your transformations, all your cleanup, also your data shaping. And as we can see here, there's a lot of things running here. We don't need the other ones. A lot of tables in here. But for example, there's an R integration, a trend line. For this trend line thing, I can have steps running where I connect to some data source. The data source obviously is my reseller sales table. Then I remove everything which I don't need. I rename then some of the columns. I group the rows, so I get only one row per date. And very important here, I can run an R script also while I transform things. So maybe I will use Power Query for that because I can have the steps. I can create the steps with a lot of functionalities in the UI, so you don't have to write anything. But I can also pass in my, for example, R script in here. That's you should recognize this is just a script you just had previously, right? I did this conversion. We ran this linear model, and then I do the output. So I add to the existing data set. That's what Power Query exposes to the script, and just add my predictions there. So the outcome, I get like a table here. I can use this table, and at the very end, I get my date and my sales amount. That's the actual values, and then the prediction, which was added through this R script. And you can, of course, do plenty of things here. Just want to give you a broad thing, and then the Q&A section, of course, we can always jump back here. So this is one of the things you can do. The other thing you can do is that you maybe do not want to run anything inside of Power BI because this is cool for yourself, right? But if you wanna share it with others, if the data doesn't really change so much, then maybe you do not want to have all the logic inside of the Power BI file, but somewhere else. And there's again different possibilities. You can have Azure Machine Learning, but I think the audience here are students and you own only so much credits at Azure. I'm sure you can use it for cognitive services. So cognitive services is pre-trained models. So there's different APIs available. I used 4 of them. So I used this language API, the sentiment API, the key phrases API, and the translate API. So how do I use this? Again, this is a little bit of code, but this code I did not write on my own. I just copy and pasted from the documentation of Microsoft. This is still the old link, right? Now it's learn.microsoft.com since a couple of months. The original code has the API key here. I do not want to have the API key here because if I show you the code, you would see my API key and could use cognitive services on my Azure credits, which I do not like so much. That's why I have this variable here. So I created a parameter in Power Query named API key, and I'm just referring it here. So you only see a portion of this API key. That's the first reason it's not exposed to you. And the second one is if somebody gets the API key or I want to change the API key, I do not want to change it inside of every single script, right? I just change the content of my parameter here and just refer to it. The rest, as mentioned, is just taken from here. And how can we use this? I can apply this to my existing data. So that's what I did here. So I can mark a column here and then apply or use the content of the column to send over to this function, which is then sent over to cognitive services, right? And then I return the result. So what I did here is the first one is I used language API, the languages API. So it tells me adjustable arrays, bearing ball, and so on. This is in English. I get a long name and I get a short name for that. It also tells me like where is it? The language score is how confident it is. So this is 1, means 100%. So it's very, very sure. Then I have the sentiment here where it's trying to find out what's the like, is this like a positive or like a negative comment? Of course, like ball, blade, crank arm, this is just a name of a product, which this is neutral. So 0 would be very negative. 1 would be very positive comment, and 0.5 is just in between. I think because it's adjustable race, it tells me, oh, adjustable, this like could be something positive. So for most of my demo data here, which is just neutral, or at the very end, I think we get also some comments here, descriptions, and of course the descriptions are always positive, right? Nobody puts a negative description for a product on the product descriptions, right? That's why we see very positive numbers here. The next thing is that I used the to translation. So I let cognitive services translate it for me. So Kugellager, Kugel, this makes sense. Rasse is not really, I mean, this is different because race could be like a bicycle race, or this could be like the skin color or whatever. And this translated like this. I don't like this translation here. But the technical terms make totally sense for me. So this you can also use to translate things. And the key phrases, where's my key phrases? It's in here. That should be the key phrases again. Why did the key phrases disappear here? So here, this is the key phrases. So it tried then to find out from my long text what's the important part, and this is what I think. This is what I showed here. Yes. So it found out there's like something about blue, universal fit, helmet, and so on, and all the and or the is removed from this text. So it's easy to like compare things. You can also use these key phrases, for example, to learn about what's typical key phrases for clothing, for example, and then you get a new product, you have a description for the product, and then via the existing key phrases, you can also take the key phrases from the new product and try to match and find out what kind of category this could fall into. There are plenty of use cases. Just wanted to point out some things here in Power BI using Power Query. If I now jump over to a very new file, I also want to show you this. So if I open Power BI, we just start Power BI. Power BI Desktop, by the way, is for free. You can just download it from, I think, download.powerbi.com, or use the search engine of your choice. You will easily find a way to download Power BI. Power BI is free. no line sets. You don't need a user. You can just download it. And if you start it the first time, it will tell you, you need data. Either you open a pre-existing file, and by the way, there's also a lot of learning resources. Do you want to learn something about this? This is this splash screen here in the middle. If you close this, either can now get data, or if I accidentally close this, it will also tell me, you want to create a report, you need first data, because without data, there is no report. Then maybe you remember, oh, Marcus just opened this plate here and then put in the fields. No, it's again telling you first need data. There's also this get data up there. There's typical resources or typical data sources there. If you click there, you get also another list here. So there's a lot. They tried really to make it easy to connect you to data. And no matter where you click, either you click on Excel, and of course this dialog for Excel will open, or I click on this get data, and then we tell you, this is like 220, 230 different sources are available where you can connect to. And most of them, I don't know. Cognate Win, never heard about it. Trimio, I'm not sure what this is. So at the very beginning, maybe this is more things you might know. Excel, right? You can have text files, XML, JSON. You can also load all the files from one folder. So if you get like thousands of CSV files, and the CSV files is like have the same structure, but each of the CSV files is for a different day in the past, for example. Then you could connect to the folder and then load all the files from the folder. There's also databases here, SQL Server, and so on and so forth. Just for this demo, I thought maybe Excel is something everybody can relate to, hopefully. So if I click here, if I click this source, of course, the next steps will be different. In case of Excel, I have to tell Power BI where and which folder I can find a file and then name the file, right? This file. If I connect to a database, guys, I have to provide a server name, I have to provide a database name, I have to authenticate myself against the database, otherwise I cannot get the data, right? So depending on the data source, those steps might be different. So I connect to this AdventureWorks sales, and then Power BI is analyzing the file and discovering, wait a moment, this is not just data, but there's like different tables, the regions are marked as tables, and there's also different worksheets in there. And if I'm not sure what this is about, maybe not always, right? Not always the naming of the worksheets is intuitive. Sometimes it's just a weird name. You can first click in here and you see a preview, sorry. So dim date, obviously this is something about my dates. I have an entry for every day, and then it tells me what kind of month it is, what kind of day it was, in which year, and so on. For the products, I see, okay, there's a lot of information about products. I have this alternate key, I have a subcategory key, I have descriptions in there, like this English product name, right? And other things. So just for this demo, I just take them all, right? Make it easy. I know that this is already prepared data because I created these Excel files, but usually it's not, right? So I would recommend to never click on load, but always to click on transform. If you load the data, it will immediately create those tables in here and you can start doing things. But most probably, in a real world scenario, the data is not clean, right? You have to rename things, you have to remove things, you have to split columns, maybe you have to put them together, you have to find default values for missing values or delete rows because you don't need them, and so on. And this is what this transform data is for. So I would like Microsoft to make this shiny green and not the load button, because I ask you always click on this transform data. Then Power Query will open up again. We just have seen Power Query, right? In this case, I get one query for each of my worksheets in Excel. And again, I have a preview here, so I see what kind of content is in there. And then I could apply filters, for example. So I can go here and say, I don't need this one. So I'll just remove it from here. Or if it's a number that's different, as you know from Excel, right? And this is not depending on Excel. If you connect to a database or to a CSV file, you have the same functionalities in Power Query. So this is not depending on the data source anymore. Maybe you think, oh, this due date key, I don't like this key at the end, but I need a blank in here. Or you could jump over to, what else do we have here? The promotion key, something like here, the sales order number. This is something, maybe we need a number, right? This is all we don't need. So I can right click here. And then, for example, I can split and I can tell, please split it by position. So I want to split it from the third position on. So I put in position 0 and 2. This is right. Already discovered what I want, right? So I get now one column containing SO and the other one containing the numbers. So there's a lot of things you can do in Power BI, especially if you're loading flat files, if you're loading Excel files. I think the guys who built this tool really had those use cases in mind where you can do a lot of things there. Yeah, renaming. I can remove a column. I don't need the order quantity, maybe. I just remove it, right? Or I only want to keep the revision number, the sales order number. I remove everything else. So it's just clicking around, shaping everything. And the cool thing is, every step, I'm not sure if you paid attention to that, but every step I did here is now added as an applied step here. So this removed other columns is the last thing I did, right? Removed everything. Before I removed just one column, I still have all the other columns, right? Then we have this split by position. This is when I did this split for the SO thing. Where is it? Can't find it anymore. Here, SO. Just before the renamed, it was still one column, right? Named this column. Everything is recorded, so to speak, similar to a Visual Basic macro. And this recording is running every single time if you refresh the data again. So if somebody provides you with a new version of this Excel file, it contains the same worksheets, but the same columns per worksheet, but the data changed, right? There were some corrections. There's now something deleted because it was wrong. There's something added because it's new data. You just press refresh and all the steps are reapplied again. So you only do this once. So don't shape your Excel files by hand, for example, but record, so to speak, the steps in Power Query. And we can also remove this again. So because I'm sure this already was prepared, so I don't need the steps. I just remove them, and then I can just load everything as it was into Power BI. So it's not loading the data, and this means that really it's loaded. So it's not connect. I mean, there's a connection information to Excel, so we can refresh it from Excel again, but everything is now loaded into this Power BI file, into the memory. So everything has to fit on your machine's laptop, and if you save the file, it will grow and grow the more data you load into it, because it's also part of this Power BI file. The cool thing is, remember, this was Excel, right? Excel is, I mean, this is not a database. We cannot query things, but I can also here, I can just double click here and can ask again, please show me the sales amount. Note this is very small. We'll make this a little bit bigger in a second. This gives me also the chance to point out that we have themes available, not here, but here. So there's browse for themes. And then I go over to my themes in here. This should be Power BI. Then I have my themes. And then I have this wonderful theme here. So it's a little bit bigger. They can again ask for sales amount by category. Again, these were independent worksheets, right? Unfortunately, the category, there's something wrong here. As we can see here, the numbers are all the same, right? So for every category, I mean, this could happen, but if I see something like that, I'm always curious, right? We just have seen the sales amount is 80 million. Now we see even bars for all of the categories. If I move my mouse here, I see 80 million in every category. There's something wrong, right? Obviously, there is no connection between I want accessories and here are the sales, and the filter is not really propagated. So if you load data into Power BI, you have to take care of your data model. So there's something about data models in here, which you should have control over, or you have control over. Let me rearrange this a little bit before I zoom in again in a second. Territory we put here, and then I put here the category, the subcategory. Okay. So let's see if this is better now. If I zoom in again. Let's zoom in further. So what we have here is I have this factory seller sales. This contains all my sales. So the sales amount is coming from this table. There's a connection to the dim product. So obviously, there's something where I can connect or find a way between my factory seller sales and my category. And if I move the mouse cursor just here, you can see that obviously there's a product key in the factory seller sales, and there's also a product key in the product table. So factory seller sales, all my sales know for which product it was, and it's referring this key. But there's no connection from the category to my sales amount. This is what is missing. So the reason why some relationships are created automatically and the others not is because Power BI is very conservative, I would say. So if Power BI has a doubt if this really makes sense, it will not create one, which is a good decision because it's easily to grab there's something wrong if there's no connection. If it by mistake would create a connection which is wrong, it's hard to discover because you change the categories and you see different numbers. And if you're not used to the numbers, you might think, oh, this looks fine for me, but it's wrong. So that's why it's very conservative. And the thing is that there's some products in my product table which have no product subcategory key. And so Power BI is not really sure, does it make sense to have a product with no product subcategory? I am not sure. I will not create this relationship, but I am sure this is okay. So I can just drag and drop and connect those two items here. And that's it. So now there's a path between my product category to the subcategory, to the product, to my factory seller sales. So if I'm not lying to you, if I told you the truth, if I jump over here, we should now see that there's different sales amount here, and I get my 60 point something million again for my bikes. So this is what you can do in Power BI in about like 30 minutes. So I think this is a natural break now. Are there any questions, Catherine, Hassan, Julia? Anything we can take up now? Or shall I just talk further?
I think you can just continue. We'll have a Q&A at the end.
Yeah, okay. So that don't make sense to have the Q&A right now. Okay, what's the end then? I have more 10 minutes more, or what, how long shall I talk?
Yeah, about 15 more.
50 minutes. Very good, very good. Yeah. It's not that I don't have any content, but if I start talking, it's hard to stop me again. That's why I'm asking. 50 minutes. Very, very, very good. So other things we can do in Power BI is that you can create plenty of other things in our reports. Like maybe we jump back to the other one because I think the data model is nicer there. It's more like I think I expected there. Jump back to the report we had in here. This one, for example. So remember, shall I discard the changes. I don't need any changes right now. Not want to load anything here to make my demo slower. I don't want to wait here. Discard changes. Please go away. Discard. That's interesting. Okay, now it's removed. No, it's not removed. Yeah, okay. So we have seen that like if I move the mouse cursor there or if I click on something, then it's automatically filtering the other things. This is called cross filtering, and this was one of the first features part of Power BI. And I think people find it out really intuitive, really easily. And so this is very nice to have it. But sometimes I need more like specific filters. So what I can also do here is, please go away, is this filter pane on the side. So I can, for example, click on my visual in here and then see there's some filters are suggested. There's a filter suggested on category because this is the categories I'm showing here. There's also a filter suggested on sales amount because this is showing sales amount, right? We can't see the headers here, so sales amount by category. This is what we have here. It's telling me, oh, this means there's no real filter applied, right? It's just suggesting that I could put a filter there, and they can take this suggestion and then expand this section and see, okay, there's a basic filter available. I could limit this visual, so it's called to only accessories, or I can add the bikes, or I can remove the accessories again. So I can select something there. For text filters, this is really nice, and it's very important to point out the way Power BI works or thinks is if I select everything or I didn't select anything, it's the same thing. So no selection means I want to see everything, because I mean, doesn't really make sense to show a visual which doesn't show anything, right? That's why we have to select all here. So either if I just want to have something specific, I keep it at nothing selected and then select those items I want to have, or maybe I want to have all except for the accessories, then I click first on select all and then remove the accessories here. This is one way we can use this. The other way of the filtering is that we can jump over to advanced filtering, which means that I have more advanced features. So I can find bikes, components, and so on, not by selecting them explicitly, but I want to ask for, please, I only want product categories where there's a letter I in there. So bikes, clothing, and accessories have an I in their names, but components not. So if I now click on apply filters, I would expect the components disappears. There's a lot of different things again. So it does not contain something, or starts or does not start with something. It's exactly something or not exactly something. And then there's this Yeah, confusing, I would say confusing thing, which is called is blank is not blank and is empty is not empty. So for people not used to work with databases, empty and blank looks like the same. Like, right? I mean, I see there's a text or there's no text, right? There's a value, there's no value. But in databases, and you've seen I can load things from Excel into Power BI. So obviously, Power BI is creating a database for me and storing everything in a database. So that's the thinking here. So blank means it's an empty string, while empty means there's no value at all. I know this is a little bit confusing. If you make your data model nice, then there should be never ever the occasion that you have to distinguish between empty and non-existing, because if you make a good data model, then there's always a value available. And if like there's no category right now, yeah, then it should there should be a category called unknown or not available now or whatever. But empty strings should be avoided anyways. So don't bother too much if this confuses you, but this is the reason why we have this is blank and is empty. And some of the filters might do something in your data model and the others not. I would say the better way is to use Power Query, right, to clean up everything, to avoid those non-existing values and to avoid empty strings, because this is confusing. And last but not least, we can also, Jill, it's a little bit confused by the screen resolution here. I can also jump over to top N. So I can ask for please only show me the top, like we only have, I should jump back here again, right? Where was it? Here it is. Remove the other filter, the advanced filter. So we can have everything again. Remove this, apply the filter. So contains. So I remove the filter. So this with the eraser. I think this is the easiest. Yes. So top N would now we only have 4 categories, right? And I only want to see the top 3. Top 3 would be bikes, components, and clothings. What I also have to add here, by which value. Of course, for me, when I see this visual, I would say, yeah, this is sales amount, right? If you ask you for the top 3, please show me the top 3 by sales amount. But it could also be different. I could have a visual showing more than one measure, then I would have to decide on. Anyway, so that's why the visual is asking me. So I have to find in my field list, I'm looking for my sales amount again, sales amount, and just move it over to this field here. And if I now click apply filter, then accessories should disappear because it's not under the top 3. This is what we get here. I still call it top N filter, but I also can ask for the bottom 3 and apply the filter. Then bikes is disappearing and components, clothing and accessories is shown. So there's a lot of different filters you can apply here. The filter is also different if by data type. So if you jump over to this visual where we have the date, right? Then the date, selecting a day over a long list, like a full year or 2 years, this would be boring. So I would only use this if there's like a specific day you're looking for. Then this might be useful. In all the others, there's also advanced filtering again. So where we can provide like the date is or is after or before or something like that, a certain date. What I really like is this relative date, because when I build reports like showing the year, the actual year, right? So I built this report and everybody is happy until January or February next year, because the report is then showing everything for 2023. But next year, the report should show the next year, 2024. So of course you can then go through all your reports, all your filters, and change the filter from 2023 to 2024, or you can use this relative date. The relative date, I can ask for, please show me, like you already have seen, like the data is really, really old. If it's 2023, right? So 10 years, if I go back 10 years, go 10, not days, but years. Where's the years? Here the years. Then it should jump back 10 years. And this is like, it's looking, and it's looking on my computer settings. So my computer here shows 2023 as the year, right? That's why it now subtracts 10 years from 2023 and jumping back 10 years. And that's what I see here. So it's starting, but it's not starting in January, right? It's starting somewhere in March, because February is not part of the last 10 years if I count by days, right? So if I also want to include everything starting in 2013, I have this thing called calendar years. This means jump back 10 years and also jump back to the beginning of the year. And then this visual, if I apply the filter again, now starts at the beginning of the year. And this is like a dynamic thing. So this is always current. No matter which year currently is, it will show like the last 10 years or like the current year or the last 2 years, depending on your computer's setting. Filters can also be added to the report itself. So again, this is like, because here this is wonderful because it doesn't really take away space from a report, but people have to know that they can like have to expand it and find the filters here. Did I remove the filter? I want to remove the filter in here again. So the other way is like I can have filters right in my report. So it's like here's the filter, right? So I can have, for example, a year filter, putting the year on my visual, and then tell it, no, don't show me a list of years. This is not a visual like a chart. I want to have a chart which is a filter, a slicer it's called here. So if I put this in here, it will put in this slicer. Maybe I make this a little bit smaller, the other one. So I can now ask for please only show me with beginning of 2012, for example. So then I should see that something happening down there, or I only want to have 2012. I can just use the mouse or the touch screen. I can also enter, of course, values and change it there. So this is easy to do. No coding, still no coding there. Maybe I decide on this is really cool. This filter should filter all the others ones, but not the line chart. Because if somebody's only interested in seeing a certain year, right, then you can just look at this certain portion of this visual. There's no need to really change the visual, just the use. We can also do that. So I can, under format, I can edit into actions and then tell. So now tell that please this filter should not change anything in this visual down there. So if I remove this, did I succeed? Sometimes I have to like make this a little bit smaller, so I'm sure where I'm clicking here. So this one should not be filtered by the other one. So if I make it bigger again, then we now see, or hopefully, not sure if you can see, this is now starting in 2011, right? Going until 2013. And even if I change this filter to only show 2013, all of the visuals will change, but this one will not change. So we have full control over all those filters and make it add interactions, additional interactions to our users, so they can interact with the report, and still we do not have to write any code. Similar to the PowerPoint thing. You can export from this public service, you can export something as a PowerPoint, but sometimes I see people like they make screenshots, put in the PowerPoint to show things, but of course screenshots are static. So what I consider is the PowerPoint mode of Power BI is that I can here under view go to my, maybe I delete erase first the selection here, add bookmarks. And bookmarks are like in books, right? You mark a certain position inside a book, and it can also mark a certain position and filter and everything in my report. So I have now everything here, and I just add a bookmark and call it, this is my overview, right? Give it a name. And then maybe I change my filter here and only show 2013, right? And then add another one and tell it, yeah, no, this is still the overview, but it's filtered on 2013, just a name for me. And then we have another report which shows the trend, right? So add another bookmark, which is about the trend. And then I can use those bookmarks myself by just jumping around. So I can jump to the one report, I can jump to the other version. This is the same report, but one with the filter on 2013, the other one with no filter applied, or I can jump over to the trend. So this is what I can use them for. But there's two things more. I can also change it to view, and then all my names, my worksheets, so to speak, in Power BI is called reports, are removed. But I now see I have 3 bookmarks. I'm now looking at the first of those 3 bookmarks. The name is overview, and I can then jump back and forth, similar to what I have in PowerPoint, right? To jump between those slides, so to speak. But very important, these are not slides. This is still an interactive report. So if I go there with my mouse, I can see what's the value here. I can click here. I can change the filter to only to also include 2012 because this is a live report, right? It's just a bookmark, a jumping point for my demonstrations, but this is not what's frozen into a slide. So this is really cool, if you ask me. And before my time is over, I also want to show you that it can really build an application with the help of those bookmarks. So I could have, for example, a page which is my start page on main or whatever. And in the start page, I can move over the filters. So I can have this filter, copy it, paste it on the start page, right? It will then ask me, do you want to have this in sync? Yes, I want it, because if somebody changes something in the start page, it should also change the other one, and then can insert buttons in here. So this is this. I start with this blank button, and then I move it down there. And in this button, I give it a name, right? So I call it overview. And at the very end, I have an action and ask for, please, if somebody clicks on this button, then please jump over to my bookmark, which is called overview. And of course, let's make this way bigger. Otherwise, nobody can read anything. So 24 maybe. Give it more space. And then I copy and paste this one time where I call it overview 2013. And of course, then I want to jump to the other bookmark. And once again for the trend, right? So I can build an interactive application without any code, right? So instead of writing an application which shows things, we just generate your reports, interactive reports with Power BI, and then make those reports interactive. So I can now click on the overview button, and it will jump to my overview where there's no filter selected, right? I can jump to the overview with the filter selected 2013, or I could jump to the trend. So, and of course, this button could be repeated on every page, so you can build an interactive application. I did this have a full session about that, just to make things interactive and add things there. What about Q&A now? Back to the studio.
Thank you so much, Marcus. I think we can't cover everything during one session, but we've learned a lot. I just have a question. So we are essentially trying to use Power BI even if we do not have any coding experience. So while we were transforming our data in Power Query, should we be worried about M code?
No, not necessarily. Of course, if you're eager to learn that, be my guest. But as you have seen, when I did all the transformations, everything, or almost everything, can be done over the UI. So you just click here on the filters, for example, and ask to only filter this, or you want to like split it by blank or whatever. So there's a lot of things here in Power Query. Those steps are actually created as M code. So maybe you can read this. Yeah, there was some expanded, record was expanded, or there were, what else do we have here? Some function were called, right? Invoked functions. So there's some function called sentiment API with a parameter in there. So most probably you can read this maybe, but don't worry about it. So I worked with Power BI like for 5 years before I even started using the code in Power Query. Of course, if you can this, you can like put it to another level, because you can do dynamic things instead of clicking around. You can have a script which does a lot of things for yourself, but you will come very, very, very far without thinking about it as M code involved.
That's really good. Thank you so much, Marcus. We've learned a lot. Thank you for taking us through the whole demo. Yeah, so we're going to go next to the next steps of our clinic. So we have our next session on the 21st of February, 2023. So for you to get the link to join us for that session, just go to the link aka.ms/GOL Power Platform. We also have the Power Platform challenge. We have a couple of modules under data analysis in Power Platform. So just visit the link aka.ms/GOL Power Platform challenge. Yeah, so for you to get the modules for data analysis in Power Platform. So thank you so much for joining us. We hope that you really enjoyed the presentation by Marcus, and we hope to see you during our next clinic on Tuesday. Yeah. So have a nice evening, depending on where you are. Bye.
Yeah, before you go,
Uh-huh.
there's also resources available. So maybe yeah, there's also resources. So if you want to learn more about Power Platform, please check out this resources page. Um, if you have any questions later on, please add me on LinkedIn, follow me on Twitter. So happy to talk to you, and also fill out the survey, especially if you liked it, right? So there's this joke. If you liked this session, please remember to fill out the survey. If you didn't like it, have a nice day. This, of course, just for fun. Please tell us what you liked about this session, what you like about the reactor. Things we read this and we'll learn from your feedback. And I think this is also then done from my side.
Thank you, Marcus.